fever of just being confined to my house and my home office. So today you're getting a different view. Welcome everyone. It is so great to have you, and thanks as always, Cam. For those of you who are new to this amazing community, welcome. It is great to see you here. And if you don't know me yet, my name is Alex Tullio, and I'm the CEO of Financial Executive Women. We're a member organisation that is all about the positive progression of women and really trying to narrow that gap of gender equality in financial and professional services. 3 days a week, we bring you some amazing speakers and guests, and we've been doing, as Cam said, we've been doing so since I think it was the end of March, whenever this whole thing started, and now we're on a roll. So great to see you all. As always, we have a full slate of upcoming guests. So today we've got the amazing Steph Woollard, who I'll introduce momentarily, but also I welcome our corporate partners as always. Thanks, Cam, because without you, we wouldn't be here, and you're such a big part of this community. Please do share. I've got out of the habit of saying share the link because we've got so used to so many of our regulars joining. But please do share this. This is a free part of our membership. We started out on this journey just so we could keep showing up, be visible, and build a community when it was more important than ever. And that's certainly what we've done. So this is free. So if you know anyone who would benefit from tuning in with us either 3 days a week or whenever they feel like it, please do share that link that Cam's put in the chat there, because everyone is welcome and we love to have you part of this community. So coming up, we've got Steph, as I mentioned, who I'll introduce in just a moment. Tomorrow, we've got Carolyn Tate. Now, Carolyn's fantastic, and I know Carolyn's been tuning in as in the audience here and there as well. So Carolyn is going to talk all about from globalisation to localisation. So she's just about to release her next book, which is all about community rising. And there's so much in there that I think is super interesting, not just for how we work, how we interact, but also what this pandemic has done in terms of our social structures and how we all want to live. So Carolyn's going to be amazing tomorrow. And then, of course, we've got one of our very own brilliant members. I can see you there, Ms. Beswick, on the video. It's so great to have one of our very own members and such a contributor to this amazing community, Nicola Beswick. Not only is she a finalist in the Women in Finance Awards, which are on Thursday, but she's also an incredibly compelling financial advisor, very passionate about financial literacy and really contributing, and an amazing businesswoman as well. So Nicola, I'm so looking forward to chatting to you in a different way on Thursday when we chat together. And of course, our masterclass series. So for those of you who are our members, you'll know that this is part of your membership. So please don't miss out on these. We go live every fortnight on Fridays at 12 o'clock, and we bring you some really great experts from all sorts of professions and areas of expertise. Nikki Smith will absolutely be well known to some of you already. Nikki is all about using your superpower strengths. She's done masterclasses for us before, and she always gets a fantastic reaction. So please don't miss Nikki's masterclass, which is coming up on Friday. And as always, Cam will put in the chat the link there so you can attend. Thanks, Cam. So please do attend if you're a member. If you're not yet a member, you'll see me get excited and wave my hands about because we're so pleased with what we bring you. So we do invite you to come to one of our events on us just to see what all the fuss is about. Now, following Nikki, then we've got the fabulous Kate Christie as our next masterclass as well. Now, Kate's also been on the show, and she is all about how to prioritise your time, yes, but I think more importantly, how to prioritise you, because that's when we can really start to prioritise our time and our energy. So some fabulous masterclasses coming up as well, as always. So without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our guest today, Steph Woollard. And if you don't yet know Steph, let me just introduce her via her bio, and then we're going to get right into this conversation. So Stephanie Woollard founded 7 Women, an organisation which educates, trains and provides employment pathways for disabled and marginalised women in Nepal. Stephanie began 7 Women at age 22 after meeting 7 disabled women working in a tin shed in Kathmandu. These 7 women were struggling to make a living in the face of harsh discrimination. With her last $200, Steph paid for trainers to teach the women how to produce products for sale locally and abroad, and 7 Women was born. In 2016, she was made a Rotary International Peace Fellow and was a recipient of the Rotary International Responsible Business Award presented at the United Nations in New York. Stephanie was a nominee for Australian of the Year in 2016 and was awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia for philanthropy and humanitarian work in Nepal. She has a Master's in Peace and Conflict Research from Uppsala University, Sweden. Steph, welcome. Let's get rid of this slide. It is so good to have you here.
Thank you.
And I have to say, we've talked many times on this show about imposter syndrome. And as I'm reading, as I'm introducing you, I'm like, wow, what have I been doing with my life? So, as always, it's so great to have guests here, and it's great to hear the bio, but I always love to ask, tell us a bit about, in your own words, the story to now, and a bit about, I guess, also your life probably pre Seven Women. So, how did you get to that point where you were in Kathmandu and Seven Women was born? What was the early story like?
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here and to share my story on this platform. So it's great to see everyone online too. Seven Women began, I suppose, when I was 19, when I was a curious young person and wanted to explore the world and had that burning desire, as we all do, to make a difference and make our mark in the world. And that took me to Nepal on a volunteering trip. And I was really moved and inspired by both the generosity of the people and the incredible, hospitality for anyone that's visited, or travelled and had that just incredible spirit of generosity, to meet them. And so that really touched me, and it really moved me to see so much poverty, outwardly visible on the street, and beggars kind of coming up to you, which was quite confronting. So that was when I was 19 and on a trip with Duke of Ed, and I then went back to co-lead groups with the Duke of Ed, bringing groups of architects from Melbourne over to Nepal to facilitate the building of structures in these communities. And at that point I got really curious and interested about how do we help to create real and lasting change in communities or with groups of people that we're unfamiliar with, in different cultures. So on the back of one of those trips, I was walking down the back streets of Kathmandu and saw a very obviously physically disabled woman who was walking in front of me, and she turned into this tiny little tin shed. And being my curious self, I followed her in and poked my head around the corner and saw that there were 7 disabled women who were living and operating out of this tin shed, and heard their stories of suffering and struggle, and saw the squalor that they were living in. So that's how Seven Women was born. And I had $200 left on that trip. I was a student at the time. I remember walking from the tin shed to the nearest internet cafe and called home back in Melbourne, called my mum and said, "Mum, I've just met these 7 women with disabilities. I've got $200. Do you think I can make a difference? Do you think I can do something to help them?" And Mum said, "Go for it, and we'll support you. You'll be able to make a small difference." I'm not sure if my mum realised how much support her and Dad would need to give me over the next 10 years, but that's how Seven Women started.
So where do I want to go next? So many of us would probably see a situation like that and feel confronted by it and want to make a difference. But there's a big difference between taking the next step that you took, which was literally your last $200, and really putting your money where your mouth is, or the intention, actually taking action. How long was it before, so tell us a bit about what happened with that $200 and what was next, and how long it took for you to get, really, what was the vision? When did that come to you that this was going to be more than 7 women in a tin shed? Did it take quite some time for that to suddenly sort of creep up on you, or was it that a very definite vision that you had from the start?
Well, I think what actually, urged me to act immediately was that limiting belief that was put upon these women by their society, and therefore, I could see that they'd started to actually embody that belief, with their own limiting beliefs around their potential. And I think, we all experience that in our own environments, you know, the limited definitions of success and you know, who we are and who we can become. So I think it was really that when I met the 7 women in the tin shed, that, you know, one woman in particular who hid behind another woman and covered her face because she had a deformity, and that to me was really, you know, heartbreaking. So it wasn't really like, what's the big vision we're building here? It was just, how can I use what we've got, you know, the resources that we have to help these women to you know, build their capabilities and skills. And I was very grateful to have had the experience of visiting a number of different organisations after we returned from the village, because I was, you know, in that leadership role and I had no translators, you know, so it was like the expectations of the group from Melbourne, and, you know, there are a few in the group that were very attached to their designs and the materials that they wanted to use, and then the community who was, you know, wanting to change some of these designs because they didn't quite suit or fit that environment. So I suppose, yeah, it was that first step. And I think with any big vision, you know, like I've got a big vision now that I'm working towards, and it's just pulling it back to what's the first step that I can take, and the rest will appear.
I love that. What's the first step I can take, and then the rest will appear? I think that's a really great thing for us all to reflect on. So tell us a bit about your philosophy. I love how you say trade, not aid. So it's all about sustainable social enterprises. Talk to us about that, because I really love, I think when you and I were chatting behind the scenes, you know, it's really this ripple effect around economic and social empowerment that comes from your approach here. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so just to fast forward 15 years later, we've got 4 enterprises. So the manufacturing business was the first one that was created with the $200. So that was training the women in skills, and they started making products, you know, knitted products to begin with, and then felt items, and then we expanded the range and started wholesaling to shops here. And then we created, you know, that created jobs and demand for the women, so we could employ more women in Nepal. The next one was the cooking school in Kathmandu that employed women in the hospitality industry. So that was a great little enterprise. It still is. It's online now. It's kind of, you know, it was, we had a lot of tour groups coming to our centre in Kathmandu to do the cooking classes, all the main tour companies, and so we've just put them online, and a guest house, so for tourists as well. And then I've got a tour company called Hands On Development Tours. So those 4 enterprises, you know, I always wanted to create 7 Women as a sustainable venture, you know, to really honour the women and the potential and their skills and what they could contribute. Because to me, when I first saw them in that, you know, dusty tin shed, I saw incredible potential in them. You know, their minds were still working, their hands were still working. So the contrast of seeing their incredible spirits, you know, they really wanted to make a go of things, and they were making candles at the time actually for the local market, which was incredibly enterprising because there were 10 to 12 hours of electricity cuts at that time in Kathmandu. So I saw, you know, they had the desire and the will to make a go of it, but it was just those limiting beliefs that got in the way. But coming back to trade, you know, not aid, I always wanted to make sure that, you know, I was setting it up in a way that really honoured their ability. And, you know, because we all know that if we have a job and we're earning our own money, we feel more capable and like we contribute something. So that was the idea behind that. And I'd just seen, you know, organisations that were reliant on handouts and the dependency that created, and the, you know, further created those beliefs that we are poor and we need help. Which has been the opposite to my experience over the last 15 years, even with the tours bringing people over. It's, you know, often we can think that we're helping someone when we're gaining so much in return, sometimes even more.
Absolutely. So tell us about what are the ripple effects that you've seen as a result? I mean, what changes have you seen in society, in interactions? I know when we were chatting last week, whenever it was, we were talking about, you know, there's a lot of domestic violence, you know, it's a very patriarchal society. So what real practical changes have you seen with the local women as a result of participating in this?
Well, I think I've seen the incredible transformation in a human when somebody believes in them and someone equips them with, very basic tools to allow them to step into their potential and to build their confidence. So the women use the metaphor of the butterfly. They come to the Seven Women Centre as a caterpillar, they get training and they're in the cocoon. They're a butterfly when they break out of the cocoon and they start to feel financially independent, because Nepal is a patriarchal society, and they are reliant 100% on their husbands if they're not working. So it puts them in a very vulnerable position if they're not in a marriage that works for both parties. So that has been such an incredible honour and gift to see these women transform over time. The woman I was referring to previously, Sandhya, who I met in the tin shed, and she hid behind one of the other women. She was actually embarrassed about herself and showing herself to the world, and now she is sending me selfies every day of her on a park bench. But she's so proud of the way that she looks and her abilities, and she was making products in the beginning with the other women, and because her hands have deformity as well, it was hurting her to work that many hours a day. And when we asked her why she was making one hand puppet while the other women were making 12 to 13 a day, she said it was hurting her hands. And we said, well, what do you want to do? And she was passionate about learning how to read and write. So we invested that time in her, in training her up to do that. And now she is responsible for training hundreds and now thousands. There's over 6,000 women now who have participated in these literacy programs, so that the village trainers come to the Kathmandu headquarters that we have, and she trains them to go back into their village, among her other roles of guiding tourist groups through and that sort of thing. So that's just, she's like a completely different person now. And actually we had a documentary come out in 2016, and she's in that documentary, and a woman came up to me after the screening and said she was horrified about the way Sandhya looked, and she wanted to pay for her to have an operation on her mouth so that she looked normal, which is what she said. And it was such an interesting moment, because it confused me for a minute, because Sandhya is proud of the way that she looks now, and I almost don't see the women as disabled anymore. So that was a really interesting situation that happened, and I kind of said to her, thank you so much for the generosity, but I didn't feel that it was, it wasn't causing Sandhya any problems, and she's now changed the perception about herself and the way that she looks. So it just shows the power of the mind as well, and having people around us that support us in our vision and in our ideas, makes a hell of a difference. Which was my mum. When I made that first call back to Melbourne, just a short sentence, and how can we do that for other people, in our lives, to give them that leg up.
As you talk, Steph, the impact, and I'm sure everyone, I can see all these transfixed faces. And as always, please ask questions, comments in the chat, everyone, as well. I'm sure Steph will be more than happy. But I'm listening to you talk about the journey and that impact you've had, and it's so much more than giving money. That transformation in her confidence, and that you've enabled in her, that now she's doing all these things, just one story, and the fact that you've impacted over 6,000 women. I mean, this is pretty massive. I want to talk to you a bit about, probably fast forward a bit. I told you this would be a very organic conversation, but to where you are now, because obviously, the fact is that normally you'd probably be jetting around all over the place, and you'd probably be, back and forth to Nepal, and obviously what's happened in the world with the pandemic has clearly impacted you as with everyone else. But I want to talk a bit about how that's impacting, what you would have normally done and how you've adapted. But also, I know your big passion project at the moment is about community and bringing people together and having that bigger platform. So I'd love to explore both of those in whichever order you'd like to.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, Seven Women has taken me on an epic adventure, and I think when our goals are greater than ourselves and our visions are so big, which it became quite big, you know, to assist more and more people, both Nepalese women and you know, taking groups over to Nepal to almost step out of their comfort zone and reprioritize, you know, what's important in life. I think Nepal has that incredible effect on people. It's a very special place. But so I was traveling around the world for the last probably four years. We've won a number of awards and also speaking at different conferences and things like that. So I have been absolutely loving life, and thank God I got so much travel out of the way because I love traveling. And yeah, so during this period of time, obviously we're in the one place, and it's funny because my Irish friends always used to say grass doesn't grow under your feet. I love that expression. And now, you know, I live like, can see a park, and there's a lot of growth over the last 3 months. But so yeah, I've actually been loving this time just to stay put in the one place, as many people probably have, and reflect on, you know, what do you want to create? What do we want to create going forward? And it literally now is up to us, you know, and what we want to create. What world do we want to see for ourselves in future? What are our dreams? What are the dreams that we have for the world? And it is, you know, if you're someone who believes in the power of the mind, like I do very strongly, and has been my lived experience, then, you know, it is really up to us, and the time is now to start getting into action, I think, around that. So my next venture, which I'm creating at the moment, is I've just felt a really strong desire to bring people together that are on the same page and that are like-minded, and that really do want to create actively the world that we're going to be stepping into out of this period of time. So that has started, you know, with a Facebook group called Inspiring Humans, and that's, you know, I started that I think about a week ago, and it's got just over 500 people now who are mostly my friends from all different countries that I've met, you know, amazing humans that are actually out there, you know, in their own little way, through their own God-given gifts, creating a difference. But I just see the power in bringing people together, you know, like this network, bringing groups of people together with a similar vision to actually like join forces and amplify the impact that we can have. So it's that the organisation that I'm creating is called Seven Continents Council, and that's going to have ambassadors from you know, different countries that I've travelled in and different people that I've met, to really create the example or be that beacon of light of a leader who is inspiring, you know, because I think the old ways and systems of leadership and the hierarchy and the positions and the titles, and I mean, I don't think that's going to hold up anymore going forward. It's and when we know now that, you know, it's no longer just prime ministers of countries or presidents that are the leaders. There can be thought leaders that can have a following across the globe. So that's kind of the new direction that I'm heading in, and, you know, anyone that resonates with that is more than welcome to join.
You know, I think we resonate. I certainly do, you know, on so many levels. One, I love your passion around together we can do more. Like that's something that, you know, always Cam and I talk a lot about, actually, about, you know, the power of community. And I think it's super interesting where we're at now. And, you know, I love that you know, as you've just commented, Steph, you know, everything's under scrutiny, you know, everything, all the norms and the things, the structures and the things that we probably accepted, the hierarchies, everything that you've just talked about. That's all. It's almost like this veil's being lifted in a way for a lot of people, because I feel like so many people throughout the last few months, you know, have really had this moment of really, I think, deep reflection about, you know, I don't want to go back to what it was, but I don't know what's in front. So I also love that you talk about the power of action and taking that next step, because I do think a lot of people are probably saying, well, I want to do something, but it feels too big for me to have an impact.
Yeah,
Do
I think
you
there's a
find that?
difference
I mean,
as well between yeah, definitely. It can be very overwhelming, especially, you know, the bigger the issues, the kind of more overwhelming it can be. But I think there's a difference between, I just think ideas come to us as humans, and the inspired ideas, you know, the ideas that light us up, if we notice that it's making us excited, the idea that's just come to us. And I think that's a time to act immediately, you know, and just make it. So, for example, the Facebook group, I just had this, you know, picture of, oh my God, imagine if I could create a Facebook group and had all my friends, and if I sat with that idea and then let the doubts and fears and worries come in, I probably would have not created the group. Is anyone going to join? Like, is it going to be a flop? But I took action immediately, and that's probably what I've been good at, and that's probably why Seven Women started as well. But the vision and the goal has always been greater than myself. I don't have an attitude that's what's in it for me. I've never ever thought that way. So I think, I'm very, very fortunate and grateful that everything else has come to me. And I firmly believe that, if we do have these visions and goals that are greater than ourselves, in any business, we can just kind of add that dimension. How can we take this business idea and make it really, have a goal to make a difference for people? I think, life has this incredible way of providing and putting the right people and opportunities in our path to make that happen. So, I think the small actions on the inspired ideas, I think that's the key.
I love it. Small actions on inspired ideas. I also, as you're talking, I think we were talking about trusting our intuition as well. And I think, it's by no mistake that, or as you said, the right things and the next steps appeared before you. I'm a big believer in, sorry, Cam, in energy, and the energy you put out there, this is what you start to attract. We're getting Cam there around the energy talk, but, it's a slow process. But seriously, we were talking about, having, such alignment. I think you said, when you're so aligned with your values and a bigger purpose, and you take that action, that's when you find your true path. I mean, you sort of reflect on everything that you've achieved, and I love it. You're so understated, which I think is kind of, it's a real hallmark, because you're just doing, it's a bigger vision than you. But, you've achieved so much, Steph. Can you tell us a bit about what was it like to, be presented that award at the United Nations in New York? What was it like to, get the Medal of the Order of Australia? Were those experiences, did they take you by surprise? Like, not many of us have actually experienced this, so let us live vicariously through what that felt like.
Yeah, it was really exciting to be notified about the UN award, because that was really exciting to be able to fly to the UN and see the UN headquarters that learnt about and heard about. And the most exciting part of that was I got a free ticket to bring someone else, and my mum has always wanted to visit New York, so I called her from Nepal. It was on the last day of one of my tours, and one of the person who had nominated me sent me a messenger notification, and I called Mum, and Mum was that excited. She said, "Oh my God, I can't feel my legs." I thought she was going to collapse. But it was so fantastic to be able to, ask her if she wanted to come to New York and to go over there together with her. And yeah, I've always seen awards as, they come with responsibility, because they're providing, that's life giving you a bigger platform to share, a positive message, and to share the work and to make more of a difference. So, it was very exciting, the experience of it, and having to deliver a speech in the General Assembly, and the people that you meet through that experience. The Order of Australia was such an amazing surprise, and these awards came at a time as well when I was thinking, I'd just done my master's in Sweden in peace and conflict research, and it probably wasn't what I expected. I became quite disillusioned, with the world after that. I suppose I was quite naive and thought that some of these, issues in the world, like wars and rebel movements and, all of the stuff that we hear about on the news, was happening because people hadn't just figured out the solutions yet. So I wanted to be part of that solution, and that's why I went there. And when I realised that, leaders can make a decision overnight to change this, and there's hidden agendas and, all that sort of stuff, I just kind of thought, wow, where does that leave us as individuals to make a difference? But that took me on a really interesting journey, because when I got back from Sweden, I was considering actually getting a corporate job and just, getting more skills and maybe bringing them back for the next step in future. I wasn't quite sure, Seven Women was getting sustainable at that stage. So I asked actually 4 workplaces, do you mind if I shadow your executives for a week, just to learn more about consulting, to learn more about HR, because I'd never done that. I'd always just, been working on my own initiative. So I did that, and that was yeah, an incredible insight into what it is like to work, in a corporate job. But I realised after that that no, I want to stay close to what I'm passionate about and always follow that joy. And um, so that actually led me to an incredible, and Cam, brace yourself because I'm going to be talking about energy here for a little bit. I believe energy is the new currency. Energy is the new currency. And we all, whether you believe in energy or not, or you've had experience. I mean, I'm talking about energy as in people that you're around. Do they uplift you? Do you leave feeling elated, or do you kind of feel, drained after you around people? So, what type of circles are we mixing in? Because that is everything. That is everything. And what sort of energy are we putting out there? So, I was kind of on this search then. I've always been a seeker, a searcher. So I was, I went to speak at a conference in Edmonton, Canada, and it was towards the end of the year, and it was literally a day and a half I was going to be there and then fly home. And I was a little bit kind of tired, feeling a bit tired, and I thought, oh. And so I felt like there was a really strong message why I needed to go there. I saw this incredible speaker called Susan Morris, who is a geologist. She discovered oil in Belize, and her story is incredible. And she always says the oil is found in the minds of men. And she said she was led to the oil because her intentions for it was to benefit the whole country of Belize. So anyway, Google her because she's amazing. But she basically transformed the country when it was on the decline. But anyway, she was talking about this oil discovery and mentioned this 10-day seminar that she'd done in the Bahamas, which was all about understanding the mind, clearing the mind, using unconscious attention, which is the attention of the whole mind, and basically being present but freeing up the energy and life force of all the crap that we put on ourselves, the limiting beliefs and blah blah blah. So I just had a really strong gut feeling, and I've always followed my gut feeling and my intuition. And I was like, I'm doing that seminar, I'm going to the Bahamas. I've got to speak to this woman and find out more. So a few months later I was in the Bahamas not knowing exactly what the seminar was, but that was the most transforming thing I've ever done in my entire life. It was everything. And I feel like since then the search is over, and I understand what we're here for, what it's all about, what our paths, what my path is, what our paths are as human beings. So, again, I'm happy to share any information about that because my mum and dad have done it since, because they noticed a huge shift, and my sister has done it as well. But I strongly believe that, for us, there's an amazing quote that says, our reality is a direct reflection of our collective consciousness. So, our minds and understanding the mind is where it's at for us as humans, and how we think and the energy that we're putting out there creates our reality. That's what I believe, and that's been my experience as well, my lived experience. So
I love that you're sharing this, and thank you, because regulars will sometimes hear me go, oh, I've got goosebumps now. Because again, there's so much in this. Like I agree with you. I think it's who we surround ourselves with, and we've got so much untapped potential in here. Like everything we end up talking about anywhere will have something to do with what we tell ourselves, our beliefs, the limits we put on ourselves, all these, bias, everything that we take with us. So I think that's incredibly powerful. We've got a couple. So what's the name of your doco, please?
Oh, the documentary is called Bringing the Light. The women talk about education in terms of bringing the light. So that's the name of the doco, and I can send it to anyone that's interested. Yeah.
And also, I know, Cam, if you can put in the website for Seven Women also in the chat, because that also has the documentary and also your book as well, From a Tin Shed to the United Nations as well. And yes, lots of people who want to know more about the course in the Bahamas. And that was Susan Morris, I think you said, Steph, wasn't it?
Yeah, Susan
yes.
Morris. She's on LinkedIn.
God, so much to talk about. I feel like we need another episode. Can I go back a little bit? Because, I mean, you've kind of peppered this throughout our chat. It's just been, you've talked about your mum, a few times, and also and the people that you surround yourself with, because you're so right. The journey that you're on and that you've been on and whatever's next, you can't do that alone. And it's so evident talking to you that it's so much about others around you and a purpose bigger than you and community and having a bigger platform to have a big impact. So who are the people that that surround you and help you on your journey, or part of your journey, that you think, gosh, I couldn't do this without their energy and their contribution and yeah, their contribution, I guess.
Yeah, well, definitely my family. My family have been, I remember Dad waking up at like 5 a.m. to take me to the markets every weekend to sell the women's goods when they started making stuff, and just, they're the type of parents that would support us in anything that made us happy to do. So I'm, forever grateful to them. And yeah, my brother and sister also, helping at the market stalls, and so they're just always there, which is an incredible launch pad, I suppose, to branch out and pursue what you're passionate about. And also, I think I'm 35 now. My generation and the younger generations, our parents have worked really hard to provide us with a good life, and I think that working. I know Mum and Dad worked really hard to set us up, to set us kids up. So we have had the incredible privilege to actually ask ourselves the question, what do we want to do with our lives? So, and I think now more than ever, it's super important that people kind of follow their joy and make sure that they're in jobs that light them up, and they're empowered in the environments that they're in to explore what they're good at, whether that's painting, drawing, it doesn't matter, as long as you're kind of doing what lights you up, because that in itself makes your life force and energy increase and impacts others. But yeah, so I suppose my family, and then mentors that have come in and out of my life along the way. I never really called them mentors, but just, people. And I've been surrounded with the most beautiful, generous people, because everyone that has been involved has just wanted to help, and make a difference. So, that's how communities are built, by people who are contributing what they can with what they have, in the time that they have. And that has been such an honour to be, I suppose, like, the bow of the ship, leading the vision, the visionary. But it of course is not possible unless you have people that actually buy into that and are enrolled into that vision. So I wouldn't kind of pinpoint anyone in particular, but I think people come in and out at different times, and it's all contributed to what we've created today.
So true. What a beautiful analogy, the bow of the ship. I love that. We're going to run out of time shortly, but I'd love to just go back to, you were talking before, and obviously you're on and have been, and you described yourself as being a seeker and endlessly curious. And after the retreat in the Bahamas, you really felt that you had the answer. I think so many of us really, we're always questing for what's our purpose. What's the thing, as I think you were saying, Steph, what have we put on the planet to do? What's our kind of zone of genius or strength, whatever you want to call it? What's the thing for you? Like, what's your zone of genius? What's the thing that if you just focus on that, that you'll have the biggest impact?
Well, yeah, I think it can change over time, but I think it's a cross between what you're passionate about and what you're good at. But following your highest excitement with no attachment to the outcome. I love that quote from a guy called Bashar. But so that's what I've done. But I think, I am definitely a visionary, and I love shining light on other people. I love that. It gives me so much joy. So I see myself as someone who brings people together, who connects people, who creates community, which is why I'm so excited about this new 7 Continents Council idea of bringing people together, and almost kind of, like everyone's a piece of a big masterpiece puzzle. And it's like the more we can kind of listen to that inner guidance or intuition or gut feeling, whatever you want to call it, and take action on that, we are fulfilling our function as that piece of the puzzle. It's when we stray from that and think we should be doing this, or we better do this, and that's when actually, like, that's not going to help the puzzle, the masterpiece, from being created. So I just think it's so important to do as much as you can, do what lights you up, or change your mindset around it. Make sure you're having gratitude for everything that's in front of you, and changing the way your thoughts and the way that you're seeing it, which was a really key pillar in the the seminar that I did in the Bahamas, but not in a theoretical way, but it was very experiential. So when you became present to your thoughts and saw them almost like tools to help you on your journey rather than things that control your mind. We're not really taught about our thoughts and our thinking and our unconscious mind and the power that has in our lives. So it was just incredibly powerful, and it gives you that awareness to then create your reality that you want to live in. So and the seminar, because I can see a few comments, the seminar is called Educo, EDUCO, and it's actually led by, I heard about it through Susan Morris, but it's led by a guy called Dr. Tony Quinn, who's Irish, and just his whole life has been about giving others the power to, I suppose, have that direct connection, so they're not reliant on any guru, or they don't have to go through a third party for that connection, that they can have that forever. And he has been his quest has been to create the steps that are super simple for people to make that connection with themselves, with that higher life force within themselves that we all have.
Oh, so good. And I know, speaking for you as well, I know you're in Melbourne as well. So, we can dream of going to the Bahamas or anywhere really at the moment. Do you, I'm really curious, because again, it's so great, it's these little, as you say, it's practical things that we can all take the next step. You've talked about inspired action, finding what gives you joy, surrounding yourself with the right people, your own mindset. There's so much there. Given that you normally are traveling around and you've found yourself at home in Melbourne, have you had any, what are your rituals, or how do you set your day up? Because I know people in this community are endlessly curious and trying to get off the treadmill of just doing and the busyness and all the rest of it. Is there something that you use that works for you to set yourself up in the morning? Is it meditation? Is it yoga? Is it exercise? Like, what keeps you in a great state of mind? If you're happy to share.
I don't actually really have one, but I've been meaning to put a plan together for a long time now, especially during this period of time. But I think exercise is always good, so I try and do that. And I don't really have a morning routine, but what I do is just kind of be grateful for what I have every morning and every night. And that's a great little practice that I do.
It does. It really takes you out of your overthinking and inward-facing mind. Steph, we're out of time, but I thank you so much for you've really shared so much, and I just want to. I love what's really resonated with me so much, but also just your comment earlier about think of it as this master puzzle, and we're a piece in that. Because I almost feel like that kind of takes some of the pressure off, because we talk a lot about especially as leaders, getting into that trap of thinking you've got to have all the answers, massive pressure, completely ridiculous, because you never do. So I love that it's kind of, we're just a part of a bigger puzzle. So I'm sure there are plenty of us wanting to know more about the community, about how we can get more involved. So how can we get more involved with the Facebook group, the Seven Continents Council? What can we do? And how?
So if anyone wants to join the Facebook group, it's called Inspiring Humans. It's in capital letters, and it's a group. So it's a painting of the world, just because there are a few different groups. But so I'd love you to join that, and Inspiring Humans, that's called, and Seven Continents Council, that's in development at the moment, but it'll definitely be in that group when it comes. And it's just an amazing group of people who. I think when you're surrounded by people like that are sharing of themselves and feel safe, a safe space to share their dreams for themselves in the world, that it's you just kind of get that hope that, oh my God, humans are incredible. Like the spirit that is in people is amazing, and the more that you can get around that and support that, so much can be created, if you're around like-minded people. So that's it. So I'd love to see you there, and feel free to reach out to me on anywhere, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. I love to make new friends.
And are you still, just as an aside, are you still doing, because I know you're doing a lot of keynotes and stuff like that, obviously now in the virtual world, are you still doing your speaking and all that sort of stuff, but just virtually?
Yeah.
So, because I know there's loads of people in this community who've got teams and looking for inspiration and all sorts. So reach out to Steph for that as well. But the details are in there. Steph, thank you so much. It's really been such a pleasure and an honour. And I know you and I were chatting when we were talking to do the promo about how can our community, collaborate with your community. So let's see, how we can be part of this as well. But thank you so much. It's been brilliant to have you. Thank you, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll be back at 12 o'clock tomorrow with another inspiring woman talking all about community, Carolyn Tate, tomorrow as well. So thank you for joining us as always. Thanks, Steph. See you all soon.